Hello, and thank you for tuning into this Engerati Studio interview at Asian Utility Week 2016. My name is Denise, and joining me today is Professor Teddy Püttgen, and you are the Senior Director at Energy Research Institute, Nanyang Technological University. Thank you so much for taking time to come out and see us in the studio today. So the gist of our conversation today is going to be sustainability and the research around it. So let's dive into the first question. With about $1.3 billion for sustainability research, NTU is making a name globally in this area. Its broad range of green projects covers clean water, environmental engineering, energy and earth sciences. How is the university currently contributing to an energy sector which is looking desperately for major transformation?
Well, contributing in several aspects. One clearly is in terms of engineering development of new technologies, new systems. So a lot of that has to do what are the technologies that are necessary for the future.
Right.
But that's not enough. We also need to look at what are the aspects of societal impact. How will society react to these new technologies? Southeast Asia also has big problems in terms of better access to energy.
Yeah.
So we're looking also on the economic aspects of this. And finally, we also clearly look at the whole environmental impact, which will be big as well. So a large university such as NTU is looking at this pretty much on a societal and global level in various aspects.
All right. So innovation is obviously absolutely critical to the energy sector, not just here, but across the globe. And it's obviously seeking to change their energy mixes and improve efficiencies. How do the energy sectors across Asia view innovation and new technologies? Are they on board for this new change?
I think they have always been on board. What is changing a bit clearly is that since this meeting in Paris, this COP21, which I believe will make a difference this time around in terms of, I think the deciders in the world, the politicians in the world have decided that we have a problem and we better address it.
Yeah.
I think they realize that this is going to become a political issue, hence they can no longer ignore it.
That's right.
What is changing is that in this part of the world, there's a large part of the population that has very little or no access to energy. And long term, that is not an acceptable solution. So I think governments are starting to become very aware of this issue. I think companies are starting to be aware of it. But perhaps the more interesting part and why this will move is that clearly the industry, the manufacturers are starting to believe that this is a real market, that there's a market that can be addressed here. And since industry believes that there's a market here, you will see actually things happening.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the opportunities are just boundless, I think.
Yes.
So how are the graduates at university and innovators, how are they viewing the energy sector of today? And does it excite them?
Well, that's an interesting question. I've been active I'm an electrical engineer by background. So I've been very active in a worldwide organization called IEEE, which groups all of the electrical and electronics engineers around the world.
Right.
And we organize along what's called sections, and one of them is dealing with power and energy. The enrollment in that had been going down for quite a while. The number of people coming to the conferences had been going down quite a while. It's interesting, in the last 10 years, the enrollment in these organizations has grown almost 50%.
Oh, wow. There we go.
It is very interesting to see that the students who used not to be very excited about energy, the image of energy was typically that it was dirty, it was polluting. These were the folks that were putting up these horrible transmission towers all over the geography. So students kind of were not interested in that. Now that it's becoming a societal issue, they're flocking back to it massively. So there's a very strong interest from students to come back. They want to look at it not only from a technology point of view, but also from a business point of view, and again from a societal impact. This field now of energy is looked as having a potential positive impact on society, and that's bringing the students back big time, which is a huge change and a very positive change.
Yeah, and it's very much needed, isn't it?
It's very much needed, and these students come from various backgrounds. What is also to me very gratifying is that you see a lot of young women coming into the field, Engineering used to be a dry field, specifically energy, particularly attracting only men. That is changing, and what is changing is because these young, very talented women are interested in the societal impacts. I'm interested in environmental impacts that this can actually have, and the ecological aspects of it as well. And all of that is immensely positive.
How is the university actually reaching out to these students?
Well,
Potential students, should I say?
I think it's difficult to actually recruit students. So a lot of why students attend a university, a lot of it has to do with word of mouth. NTU has been climbing in the various ratings very quickly. So students, when they choose universities, look at ratings, and they're right, that's what they should be doing. They are also looking at overall reputation.
Right.
So the fact that NTU has been attractive, very good new people coming in, NTU has been very good at picking universities, professors from around the world to come and work to Singapore. And all of that actually contributes to the fact that there's kind of a word of mouth, there is an inertia, positive momentum that is actually happens, so students start to flock to the university. The other aspect that the university in the last 15 years has done a lot to make its campus very attractive. This is now a beautiful campus, which is very pleasant to live on, and all of that contributes to a positive impact.
Fantastic, all right. So, back to the energy sector,
Sure.
And in your opinion, what are Asia's opportunities as far as energy goes, and are they harnessing these opportunities?
Well, let's talk about Southeast Asia. That's the topic that is more dear to my heart.
Yes, of course, yeah.
Just to give you one or two numbers, the population in Southeast Asia, these 10 countries, is about 625 million inhabitants. 100 million live in very large metropolises like Kuala Lumpur, Manila, Bangkok, Singapore, and so forth. 125 million have no access to electricity or energy, or very little.
Right.
That is a huge problem, but it is also a huge opportunity.
Yeah.
So the opportunity here really is how can you do more to bring energy to these people? You can have a very positive impact on their lives, which is good. And you can also bring very new opportunities for new technologies. Renewable energies, PV, wind. There will be opportunities here for new storage technologies. So there are lots of opportunities that are here. Indonesia has 17,000 islands, Philippines has 7,000, Myanmar is very poorly electrified. So all of these are good opportunities for new technologies, for new penetration, and for new business.
All right. What is the major trends that you are seeing in the energy sector right now in Southeast Asia, and what excites you the most?
Well, clearly the trend is how do we use renewable energy more, and that's clearly the case. The other aspect that is very specific to Southeast Asia is that it's very dispersed. It's a very large area. Geographically, it's primarily dominated by water. So you will not be able to put a large transmission system here. That's almost impossible to do. So we're going to get involved very much in what's called microgrids. So this can be, and I'm hopeful that since I've started working now here in Singapore, that this is where we can make a difference, to actually show that microgrids can be a solution, is a way to actually develop access to these particular renewable energy aspects. So microgrid implementation is a formidable opportunity for this region to put in play.
Absolutely. So the question that I'd like to ask about microgrid development is, should utilities feel threatened by microgrid development, or should they be snapping up the opportunities that it has to offer? What is your opinion on that?
Many of them will feel threatened, and they shouldn't be. My attitude in that is that microgrids will happen, whether they want it or not. So the visionary utilities will say, okay, this is something that's going to happen, let's go with it. And I think you're starting to see utilities saying, okay, fine, this is happening. It's going to happen relatively fast. So this is a good opportunity for us to, one, have a positive impact from a societal point of view. Don't forget, many utilities here are national utilities. So there is a political impact that can be played here. And some other ones are clearly be looking at this as a revenue potential. So I think the good utilities, the smart utilities, the visionary utilities, and they're mostly what they are here, will snap this up and say, okay, microgrid is us.
Fantastic. So renewables, microgrid development, those are the two major trends that you see as being...
There's a third one. I always look at this as tripods.
Right.
So clearly it's renewable energies,
Yeah.
you mentioned that. It's microgrid, you
Right.
mentioned that. But the third one is energy storage.
Yes.
We cannot consume energy the way we get sunshine or we get wind, so we need to store it.
Yeah.
So the tripod is really renewables, storage, and microgrids.
Right. And I'm sure each of those have challenges of their own.
Correct.
And are creating a few obstacles for utilities, I'd imagine. What are the biggest challenges that you see in the adoption of renewables and microgrid development and energy storage? What do you think is presenting the biggest challenges
There
right
are
now?
many. One of them has to do with regulatory. We need to have regulations
Right.
and policies that favor these.
Yeah.
So there is a political aspect there that needs to be there. So we need to adopt the good old Obama mode. Yes, we can,
Yeah,
in
yes.
terms of that. We need to look at ways to change regulations and not to see how regulations could impede things. That's item one. Item two, we need to look at the finance aspects of this. I'm less concerned about capital costs because I think we will find foundation banks, development banks who will fund it. We need to look at how do we make these microgrids, how do we make these systems affordable in the long run. So the second challenge is finance. And clearly the third one is to develop products specifically for this region.
Yeah.
If you have a battery that works great in North America, it may not work so well here with the temperature, the humidity, and so forth. So we need to develop technologies, good, reliable, solid technologies for this part of the world. So it's policy, finance, and technology. That's the second tripod that I'd like to talk
I
about.
know there are many others, but those are your top three.
Yes, absolutely.
Challenges.
That's what we need to focus
All right.
on.
So then, following on that is my last question.
Sure.
What would be your advice to utilities in the region when they're looking at these opportunities and they're looking at these challenges? What would be your sort of takeaway advice for them?
If I was a utilities CEO at this point in time, my key concern would be how do I get the young folks, the young men, the young women to work in my company to take advantage of all of these opportunities. So it clearly has to do how do I interact with universities such as NTU to make sure that I will have a constant flow of very solid, broadly educated, not too specialized, broadly educated with a broad mind, with young people that often do not understand that things are impossible, so to come up with new solutions.
Super. Well, Teddy, thank you so much for joining us in the studio. I'm afraid that's all we have time for, but thank you so much.
It's good to meet you.
Thank you. And to our viewers, thank you so much for tuning into the session. If you're wanting more insight into Asia Utility Week, please have a look at our playlist, which will appear on our website, ngerati.com. Thank you.